Welcome to Art and Soul, Pavilion Perspectives, presented by Photo Art Pavilion, where we go beyond the frame to meet the artist behind the lens. I'm Jessica Lempin, co-founder, co-owner of Photo Art Pavilion, and today we're diving into the stories, the travels, and sparks of inspiration that shape the work of our featured art photographer. Whether it's a moment captured on a mountain trail, a quiet morning by the sea, or a once in a lifetime adventure, every image tells a story, and today we'll hear it straight from the source. Settle in and let's get to know the art and soul behind today's featured artist. I am joined by William Gillis. He's a true detective of nature whose work reveals the vivid beauty often overlooked in a world around us. Through his unique approach to high dynamic range, HDR photography, macro and landscape photography, William captures nature's vibrant colors and intricate details, inviting viewers to step into each scene and experience it for themselves. William's passion for uncovering the extraordinary within the ordinary, offering a creative vision that connects emotion and reality in every frame.
Well, I'm very excited to be here. I think that my work doesn't always measure up to, professional level. However, it does when I found out in art sales that during the summer that it did, and that the people that looked at my art were felt like that they had entered into the scene, and that was what I tried to present. And idea was, as you stated, was to present things that most people will not see. And I'm sure they see the maximum or the landscape part of the picture, but not the macro part of it. And that's what I try to do. And I really appreciate Photo Art Pavilion and you, Jessica, to present this for me.
Fantastic. All right, with that said, let's jump in and view four of your images that you wanted to share with us today. First up, we have Cala 2. It's just absolutely stunning. Do you want to share a little bit about the behind the scenes, what inspired you, and the steps you took to take this?
This is a first light painting trial for me. I had these cauliflowers and used a flashlight and basically just stood there and flashed the flashlight around. And this is what I got. And I was rather surprised at what I got, but it encourages me to do more of this. I think I like the way the flowers jumped out from the darkness and showed their color and their formations. And that was about it. I took multiple images in various or five different exposures and then combined them in Helicon Focus, software program I've been using for 10, 15 years, which is an amazing software program as far as I'm concerned. And it just put it together in front of me. And I also ran it through Photomatics and then compared the two. And I do that quite a bit. I run it through several different programs and see what I can come up with the best image. And that's about it for that.
That's fantastic. I'm loving the details that you have in the bottom part of the flowers and then those nice crisp lines. You did a great job with light painting. That's really fun
Mhm.
and such a great technique. Now, this one is Winter Tree, and I'm loving the minimalistic approach that you took with this. It's just such a great image with the negative spacing and everything. Do you want to share your experience behind this capture?
My wife is my muse, so we noticed this tree in Afton State Park, and not too far from my home, near Hastings, Minnesota. It had snowed pretty heavy this particular morning. I was there early, really early, usually right around sunrise is my favorite time to shoot. And with the snow still flying in the air, basically, it makes the background almost totally white. And the fresh snow on the branches of this tree made it really, I think, a beautiful image. And it's an HDR image, five different exposures. I tend to, in my HDR photography, go towards the darker side rather than the brighter side. I did brighten this up a little bit in order to get the full effect of the tree against the white background. Usually when you fight or go out and take a photo like this, at least from my experiences, you got clouds to deal with, and rarely do you get a total whiteout type of experience. And that's how I did this. This has been one of my most popular photographs for sales. I also have a black and white version, but there's very little difference between the two, obviously,
Yeah.
because there's just a little color on the ground and that's it.
Yeah, I think the pop of color in the scene really makes it so unique. If you convert it to black and white, I feel like you lose some of that magic.
That's
But
correct.
having the atmospheric conditions of the falling snow really does create such a magical moment here.
Yeah. At this time it was foggy and snowing at the same time. So this is how I was able to get the white background. There's another photo that went with this, and it's the one called Persistence. And I shot them both the same day, and they're about an hour apart. And I was just leaving the park, and I saw the picture, and I walked down into the ditch um, from that tree, and took a series of pictures, and I was standing in 3 feet of snow. But so those two pictures were taken um, within hours of each other.
Excellent. And the other one that you're referring to is available on your Photo Art Pavilion storefront. So if anyone's watching this, they can always jump over and check that other image out.
Yep.
So this one you titled Puff, which I love the name. And I
Mhm.
like how you have your leading line, which is that stem coming down on the bottom right corner. And
Uh-huh.
the magical world that just you kind of fall into with this in that center area. Do you want to share a little bit of your technique and what inspired you to take this?
This is not a dandelion.
Oh, it's not. My bad.
No, it's called,
Sorry.
no, that's fine. You don't know how many people called it a dandelion when they came to the art shows, or they say, oh, that's a nice dandelion picture, but it's not. It's called goat's beard. And in this case, it was a yellow goat's beard. And this is a puff seed head. They grow 4 to 6 inches in diameter. I been looking for this for a while, and it occurs in late July, early August. They're in roadside ditches, at least in Minnesota. They're in roadside ditches, and I saw them. I went down there and I clipped off a couple of them. I cut them off. They tend to fall apart immediately if you move them because the seeds are ready to explode in a wind puff and distribute, of course, all over everywhere so that next year they can grow. And the first ones I ever cut fell apart, so I've had to figure out another way to do it. And I went to the drugstore and bought a can of hairspray. Came back and picked out the ones that I wanted, and I sprayed them with hairspray. That made the seed head stay in one position. It wouldn't fall apart. I came home and I set up my black background, which happened to be a dining room table. And I set this up from a water bottle, took my HDR pictures with my macro lens, my 60 millimeter Tamron macro lens. And I took 5 or 6 different exposures, and I approached it by as the macro lens would bring each section into focus, then I shot the 5 or 6 different exposures. And I did that until I got all the way to the back. 4 or 5 images that I thought were the best of each layer. And then I put them in Helicon focus. And I sat there and watched the software put this together in front of you. And as each layer, and then add them together, it came up with this final image.
Oh my.
And this has been my most popular image and for sales. At one of the art shows we did, there was a Native American woman that came into the tent, and she looked at that and she says, "Do you know what they call that?" And I said, what she says the Native Americans call that Johnny comes home before noon. And the reason she said that is, in this case, it produced a little yellow flower, and that flower would come out early in the morning and close up by noon every day. And that's why they call it Johnny comes home before noon.
Oh my goodness. That's fantastic. I love the story behind it and learning. Again, I assumed it was a dandelion, but to learn that it is not, and it's just even more interesting now, understanding the flower itself and also your technique. I would have never thought to grab hairspray, to spray it down and keep it in place. That is genius. And it
Well,
worked, which is fantastic.
it's just a basic hairspray is all it was. It had no odor or anything to it. And I tried it and it worked. So I ended up with 48 images
Mhm.
in this final image is what it came up to.
Yeah, so your technique of focus stacking definitely helps to increase the overall interest into the scene. Because if it was just the center, you'd lose the detail of those exterior petals, puffs, seed pods, whatever that poof part is. And then also your stem of the puff itself has such a nice highlight to it and such a sharpness to it that the stacked focusing truly makes this really quite unique and interesting. So well done.
Well, thank you.
I feel like I need to carry hairspray now with me in case I see something fun like that. I think overall it's such a great capture. So welcome and thank you so much for sharing this image with us. Here we have
Oh,
Kinona's Woods. What brought you to capture this? What inspired you? And are you lost in the woods in this? Because you never know. It's a fun.
well, this story has changed now this last year. Now, this is again an older image of mine. It's on the shore of Lake Superior. There's a state park, very small state park called Iona's Beach. As you park in the parking lot, you walk down the path. There's a bicycle trail that goes. You cross that, and then you go down into this path into the woods type of thing. And this is on the right-hand side of this path. The day that we were there was just fresh from one of those storms. And the snow, it was wind-driven snow. And of course, you can see it on the trees from one side. It had stuck to the trees. I was drawn to this by the lighting, first of all, the way the sun was coming through the trees, the parallel stand of trees. Now, these are pines. And then with the snow on the trees itself. So I took this photo. Again, it's a stacked image. And I took a whole bunch of photos of this. And then I put a vignette on it when I put it on Photo Art Pavilion. Originally, I didn't have that on there, and I really like the vignette on it now. We were just in this park about a year ago, this last summer. This has all been destroyed. A storm came through there about a month before we got there, and all these trees are gone. The wind blew them all over, and forestry DNR has come through and cleaned a lot of them out. This picture you aren't going to get anymore unless you see this.
I am loving how you stopped and took the shot because I'm looking at these trees and again you have that stacked focusing going. So even when you look all the way down, I don't know if you can see the cursor as I'm moving
Mhm.
it, but you can see how this is still sharp in the scene as you even walk out into this area into your foreground and to be able to have that and again like the juxtaposition so you have the white of the snow and the darker bark nicely complementing each other and that you have it as black and white. I think this is such a nice composition overall. Adding the vignette also, I feel like just pulls you in a little bit more into this highlight. So it makes you walk through the path here. William, my first question I want to ask you, as far as being a art photographer or just a photographer, do you have a favorite piece of gear that is like your must go to or one thing that you have to grab?
Well, in all honesty, I cannot hold a camera without shaking it. So my required piece of equipment always is a tripod.
Ah, okay.
I cannot take photographs any other way except with a tripod. I've tried it over and over and it doesn't work for me. So, and then I shoot a Sony DSLR, which I love. And the lens on it is, well, let's see, it's came with the camera and well, I don't know,
Oh,
it's
it's okay.
A77 II, and I only carry three lenses,
Okay.
and that's all I've ever done. And the Tamron macro lens is a 60 millimeter, and the one that's attached to the camera is the telephoto, 18 to 250, and then I have a Tamron 200 to 500 lens that I use sparingly, and it just when I feel the need for it, that's when I use it. But
It's good to have
so
it
that's
when you need it.
that's my equipment. That's all I use. And I carry the tripod. People say, "Well, why do you carry the tripod?" Because I said I can't take a picture without it.
But that's how you're getting such crisp, sharp images.
Correct.
And you
Yep.
really, when carrying a tripod and committing to that style of photography, you're really thinking and really putting together that scene in your mind before you set your base, your tripod, and getting everything together. So to me, it's a little bit more of a intimate moment with your scene at hand instead of just picking
Yeah.
up the camera, snapping, and let's go. So I
And
think,
it makes a great walking stick if you're not using
yeah,
it at the present time, at
I
the
have done
present
that
right
before.
time.
I've destroyed quite a few tripods using it as a walking stick.
Yeah.
What would you wish your younger artistic self knew when you first started this journey?
I started this journey really young when I was using a Kodak camera, box camera,
Yeah.
and I would take pictures of birds and whatever, take them down to my dad's drugstore, have them sent in for developing. They always came back totally black. So I put the camera away and I said, "Oh, I don't know if I want to do this." So this really didn't happen. My interest in photography didn't happen until, oh, maybe 15, 18 years ago when I had a Canon point and shoot and I took a picture of a large dragonfly on a green leaf. Now he was green and the leaf was green. And all I got was
Green.
really the showed up really well were the wings because
Oh,
they had all the details. And then um, I had showed some of my artwork to some of my friends and or some of the photographs to some of my friends, and they said, "Well, why don't you do art shows?" And then so we got into art shows, and that the the first two art shows were really disasters. But a woman came into my tent and she just stood there and admired, and she really got very emotional. And she said, "Boy," she says, "I love your photography. I'm able to walk into the scene and put myself there." And that's when I knew that I was on the right track. And so we did art shows for 6 or 7 years during the summer, and until COVID came along, and we haven't done one since. So
I totally understand.
yeah. So that's I never really considered myself an artist until people said, and they accepted me in art shows rather quickly. So, I got turned down on a couple, but who
Yeah,
doesn't?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I feel like when somebody comments on your work, it's like you can take that badge, if you will, and
Yeah,
you run with
yeah,
it. So
yeah.
fantastic. William, I just want to say thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your day today to share with us the beauty of your art and the stories behind it. So thank you so much, William.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. And I'm a big supporter of Photo Art Pavilion. So,
Thank you. We're here to help you. Thank you for joining us today at Art and Soul Pavilion Perspectives, where every artist has a story and every story helps to bring their art to life. I just want to say thank you to William Gillis for joining me today and going over his 4 fascinating images that he has captured. If you want to learn more or explore more about Photo Art Pavilion or even William's work, I have all of the links and information listed below in our description. Now, before we go and say goodbye, hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and we'll be sure to deliver some more interesting perspectives. All right, until then, keep shooting. Bye, everyone.